Hello, as you can tell from the title, this is not going to be horror based or anything like that. This is to do with mental health or however you want to describe it, but this is about how I deal with having Asperger Syndrome, which is a spectrum disorder. So, most commonly, people would know autism and Asperger's. So that's the spectrum, but there's loads of other conditions that's mixed in between there, but that's the two main ones that you tend to hear a lot about. So mine is Asperger syndrome, which if you just look it up, you'll find various things about it. Different people focus on things differently with their condition. Mine is I tend to hold on to a lot of information. Some of it can be seen as completely pointless information you wouldn't even need, which is possibly true. It's some of the stuff you don't really need, but it just seems to stick in my head because it's numbers and things like that. So, Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman, if you want to think like that. But yeah, so it's numbers, things like that, or movies and what years they came from, and directors and who was starring in them, and blah blah blah, all that type of thing. So that's my sort of category, I suppose. My focus I keep on. Hence, I started a movie website, and so that's obviously what I keep my focus on. And as you can tell from behind me, I do have a lot of movies. But yeah, the Asperger's can be seen by different people as a problem. Now, for me, growing up, I didn't think anything different. Didn't think anything different at all. Just carried on as normal because I didn't actually get diagnosed till I think 2015, maybe 2016. It's somewhere around there. It was in November anyway. I know that. So obviously diagnosed as an adult in my 30s. So being 35 now and looking back at things from your childhood or back from the past type thing, you think about, oh, that explains why that was like that, because my mind works differently than a neurotypical person. It's not a problem. It can be seen as a problem by other people. Like, another one of my things is I can seem inappropriate to a situation. So emotionally, I'm basically switched off. I'm a robot. I can be emotional to a point, but not uh, probably not emotional. Probably passionate about something. Passionate is probably more the word. Not so much emotion as such, but it can cause problems. So relationships, it can cause problems. I don't just mean dating somebody, and I'm single, so dating somebody, it's going to be hard anyway. Having Asperger's is quite hard for people that's on the spectrum to date people anyway, because unless you find somebody who's really, really willing to persevere with what goes on in your mind, it's quite hard. And unless you get together with somebody who was also on the spectrum, but then again, you could still have the same sort of problem, because what one person's Asperger's or autism is completely different to what the other person's is. So, and what do you both do? When you both have like an Asperger or an autism meltdown, which is a mixture of emotional and other things that happen that can create like a stress bubble, basically. The bubbles get bigger and bigger and bigger with sensory overload, stress, etc., anxiety, and then the bubble pops, and that's when you just have a complete breakdown. In my case, I stress or whatever just builds up, unknowingly just builds up. I don't really think about it, and then when the bubble does pop, I don't explode angrily or anything like that. I just feel really tired, and then I can sleep for days, and I could get up, do whatever I have to do, and then I just want to go back to bed. I could be up for a couple of hours, and then I went back to bed, and then I went back to wake up again the next day until whenever, and that would carry on for a couple of days. My worst speak meltdown was probably 3 weeks of that kind of not schedule, but that kind of idea of things. I'd wake up, even though I would try to push myself to go through, which can be a good and a bad thing. You can push yourself forward to do stuff, but then you're also pushing yourself, your mind and everything's not capable of keeping up with that, so pushing yourself could end up making things worse. So I tend to learn that, or I've learned slowly, and I still do things slightly differently, is to do things as it is. If I wake up, say in the middle of the night, I wake up, I do what I have to do. I mean, whether it's doing some writing or reading a book or something like that, I'll just get up, do that, go back to bed. So, it sort of keeps your mind active and away from things. But obviously, if you're in a relationship, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever your sexuality is, dating wise, it could be hard, especially if you're a neurotypical person and you're dating somebody who doesn't quite understand it. I mean, it's all very well somebody could say, "Oh yeah, I understand autism," or whatever spectrum, or it doesn't have to be a mental health condition or whatever. It can just be any form of health condition, and unless it's something that's pretty well known, people would go, "Oh, okay, I understand that." But if it's something not really heard of or spoken about, people will back out and just sort of say, "Oh yeah, I know that." But that's more in a case, I would tend to think it's more so people, the person with the suffering of whatever the condition is, you don't have that person then constantly questioning you about, "Oh, what's this?" It's their kind of like get out card kind of thing, in a way, I suppose, if that makes sense. But yeah, so relationships, it can be hard. Friendships, it can be hard, because there could be something, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something catastrophic, but not really catastrophic, but in your head it could be classified as catastrophic or whatever, and it could damage a friendship. So whether that friendship can be repaired is a possibility, but majority of the cases it's not for somebody who's got autism, because when you see that person, or you think about that person, or you see or hear or whatever in your mind, is that whatever the problem was. So for me, I only have a very, 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 very small circle of friends, and one of them has been a friend of mine for over 15 years, and that's my longest running friend. So I said I'm 35. So, had friends growing up in school, but I wouldn't say I had loads. I could probably a handful in primary school, and then secondary school, again, probably less than a handful. But does it bother me? Not overly. I just sort of get on and do things. There is the occasion where you might feel lonely about something, but for me, it's more just a fleeting thing. You kind of, I don't know, say there's something coming up, some event or something, you think, "Oh, it'd be nice to go with somebody." Oh, you've already got somebody to go with, and you can't ask whoever else, because they're going to be busy with family members or whatever's going on with their life. So you just got to kind of go, okay, I won't worry about it, and you move on and do whatever you have to do. But that's just me. It's different for different people. But I've got my tea first. But as I was saying, that it can be hard to, I guess, try and read somebody's body language or emotional state, which for me is quite hard to do anyway. But I don't know, say that somebody's obviously had something traumatic happen in their life, and then they obviously, for most people, they look quite traumatic or whatever, but I just see a face. That's all I see, a face, and that's that. And then I'll just go, huh, from you then. And whoever I'm with at the time would be somebody who would be like, you know, you can't say that, you gotta be, because, whatever the thing is, maybe somebody's died or whatever. So for me, it's quite hard because I'm being me. I don't see any reason why I or anybody with any form of mental health or any condition should hide what they have or could potentially have, if just because people don't understand it. I mean, as I said in a previous video, if it's something physical, somebody can see, missing a limb or something, you go, oh, that's what that is. Mental health or something else like that is completely different. It's hard to explain to somebody in so many words what goes on in your mind. So for portrayal of people on the autistic spectrum of autism and Asperger's and everything in between, it can be difficult because you're either seen as, I don't know, Dustin Hoffman, Rain Man kind of idea. Oh, so you like Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man then? No, not everybody is exactly like that. Everybody acts on different stages of autism. There's high IQ people that's got autism, Asperger's, and there's people on the other side of the spectrum. Things all different in between. Everybody has their own little thing that they grasp onto. I was told by somebody that their thing that they clasp onto is the history of carrots, which to me or to anybody else would sound completely baffling. Why would you want to know what that is? And they could talk about carrots and where they came from and all this kind of thing for hours on end. But that's their thing. So mine is about movies. I could start talking about movies, and the person stood in front of me could be completely glazed over and not really paying attention. They're probably zoned out by now, but I've continued talking about what I wanted to talk about. Not really saying that they've zoned out and they've, mentally they've gone somewhere else until you finish and they go, yeah. Which is generally when they wasn't particularly listening to what you had to say. So you have the portrayal of what people think you, I suppose the media portrays you to be. So whether it's, like I said, the Rain Man thing, or there's people who can look at a painting or something and then go back and they can paint that painting exactly. You've only seen the picture once, but they can paint it exactly as to what there is. That's their thing. There's nothing wrong with it. But there's certain things that you would say to somebody about the way you are that people would consider inappropriate or odd, weird, kooky, all the kind of words that you would say to somebody, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago or something, and you say, oh, that person's a bit like that. Now it makes a little bit more sense, and because the world's so PC now, you have to be very, very careful, which is also something that's very hard for somebody who's got Asperger's, like me, is trying to keep up with what is considered the politically correct term for whatever the situation is at the precise moment in time. It could be anything. I mean, things are constantly changing. The moment I think, oh, I've grasped what that thing is now, it's suddenly changed again and it's something else. So eventually the person who's trying to keep up the PC type thinks it becomes even harder. So you generally just kind of stick with what you know and stick with whatever it is. So, you know, there's certain things. So again, if you're with a friend or in a relationship with somebody, you can potentially say something and the person you're with might think, yeah, you're not supposed to say that anymore. It's not allowed to say that. You know, like, yeah, but what? That was what it was. And they go, yeah, but that's what it was, but it isn't that now. And then you become you start a conversation as to why it wasn't that anymore, which then potentially could harm the friendship or relationship you're with, because the person you're with is trying to explain to you why the certain thing isn't like that anymore, but you're arguing for the other side of it, which at the time would make more sense, but because the world's so much more PC now, it makes things harder. So eventually, if you was walking around with somebody and, you know, say the other person is very, very, very PC and you're not, you will be as PC as possible to what you know is the PC thing. But then there comes a time where you will say something that's considered inappropriate, and then that person's like, yeah, I don't want to hang around with you anymore. It's a bit awkward sometimes. Yeah. For me, it's more of a case of going, okay, get that, move on. What else can you do? There's no point arguing the point of, I don't know, whatever you could constantly say, which is what I've said to people before. I am the way that I am. I say what it is, and that is what it is. Whatever I say, that's how I say things. And if people either laugh or I feel edgy about it or whatever, then can't really say a lot. I mean, I could say something and then go, oh, I'm sorry, but I have Asperger's, and I go, oh yeah, I understand or whatever. But I don't do that. I just say things, and that's that. It's out there. You can't do. You can't take the things back and put it back in your mouth and pretend nobody's ever heard it before. So things can be difficult. Is basically what I'm trying to say. Which, if you have Asperger's or autism or on the spectrum, or you know anybody that's on the spectrum, you would know that conversation-wise, it can be hard. Not just for conversations. It could be going simple as going into a shop. Going into a shop and you can hear the buzzing of the lights. So it's the sensory overload. You can go into the shop and you could smell the bakery at the back. Most people would smell the bakery and think, that's enticing. Will bring me further into the shop. Some people, that's a complete sensory overload and they would be out. So you have the sort of like online shopping, which for people with all sorts of conditions is a great thing, because you can just, you want to do your shop, you do your food shop, some desserts, that's that. But then again, on the other side of it, you're not going out as much, so you're not socialising, which for me isn't particularly a problem, because I don't really socialise that much anyway, other than like family things and my friend that I see every now and again. But other than that, I don't really socialise. So there's that. And to be honest, if I went into a shop, I would generally just go in for what I've gone in for, get the thing, pay for it, and walk back out. That's that. I've done my piece. So if you're doing shopping with somebody else who doesn't understand what goes on in your mind or whatever, it could be hard, because you're trying to keep it together, basically. Trying to keep yourself together for the other person, so they don't feel that they have to rush around to do whatever the thing is, whether it's shopping or going out somewhere. So it's a mixture of anxiety and stress and sensory overloads and all sorts of things. So as much as the media or whoever wants to say that people with on the Asperger's autism spectrum are, whether they're emotionally disconnected or however they want to pronounce it, can be emotionally disconnected. The majority are connected, but it can be hard to explain to people as to why you are the way that you are. And there's only so many times you want to keep repeating yourself when somebody says, "Oh, what's that?" And then eventually you just kind of give up, and then you go more into yourself and more into yourself and more into yourself, and then you just kind of give up on it, and then you end up doing things by yourself generally majority of the time, and then occasionally you will have an Asperger autism meltdown, which can go various different ways. For me, it's sleeping, a lot of sleep, generally, a lot of sleep. And it's usually, not all the time, but generally it'd be more sort of daytime-ish, more of a night owl type or anything. But not a night owl where you'd go out to a pub or a club or something, because that doesn't interest me. Night owl just being in my own little bubble, doing my own little thing, which I'm quite happy doing. So yeah, as I said, there's various different ways people can cope with the meltdowns, I suppose. You can keep it yourself if you live with somebody, whether it's, you know, you're young and you live with your parents, or live with family members, or maybe you live with your friends, or whatever. You have somebody to talk to. So don't hide in the shadows with your mental health issues. Talk to somebody about what your issues are. It can be hard. I won't say it won't be, because sometimes you will hit the wall of somebody who doesn't want to listen to what your condition is and trying to explain it to them. But if you persevere, you will find somebody who will listen to what you have to say and quite happy with it. And there is support groups out there if you want to do them. I mean, there's a local one for me, but it's too hard to get to. By the time I've got there, I have to travel back anyway, so I don't bother going to it. So, but obviously there's online forums and telephone lines, and, you know, social media groups you can join in if you want to talk to people about other autistic Asperger's issues. But hopefully you, whether you've been diagnosed with any form of condition like this, or you know somebody who's on the spectrum, this video might have helped a little bit. I've tried to explain things as much as possible without putting too much out there, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to, what's the word? Not trying to be coy, I'm trying to say you can be yourself, but there's a certain point where people kind of push you away because you're being yourself too much. So some people might not be able to handle that. I personally handle it, kind of go with it, just go with the flow. Not much else you can do. Someone who doesn't want to be your friend anymore, or they don't want to be part of your life, whether it's friendship, relationship, whatever the reason, you can't keep pushing for somebody to stay in your life. So eventually you just have to kind of let them go. So yeah, if you're on the spectrum, I would suggest joining any form of group, probably a social media group, because at least then you can potentially talk to people. I mean, you will be yourself, but you generally won't know the people. And maybe you'll form a friendship with those certain people, and then you'll develop more friendships, and who knows what happened from those friendships. Maybe something else will happen now eventually. But yeah, hopefully this video has helped in somewhat. It kind of went on a bit longer than I was planning on doing it, but it was supposed to just be about Aspie meltdowns and the way people portray you, but typical person with Asperger's, we went on a tangent. So sorry that this video is a bit low, but hopefully it has helped some of you out there. But I will do other videos like this eventually somewhere along the line. I mean, if you don't know me personally, I can tell you I have Asperger's, I have depression, I have OCD, and I have sleeping problems. So there's a few things going on there. So probably the next one I'll probably do is something to do with OCD, which can be fun for some people, and others it can just be really, really annoying at times. But hey, that's for a different video. So yeah, obviously check out any sort of like autism websites for that sort of thing. Look up on social media, mainly Facebook, I guess, for groups, maybe local things that's in your area. And yeah, and if you do know anybody that's going through the ways of finding out if they're going to be diagnosed with Asperger's or whatever, don't just let them deal with it themselves. If you know somebody that's doing it, talk with them, because they will need help, because there'll be certain things that, like for me for instance, there'll be things in your childhood that you don't think of, but somebody else, your family member, might remember, and then you, when you get diagnosed, if you get diagnosed with Asperger's or autism, whatever, you can look back at it and go, this is all making a bit more sense now. And I've said this to somebody else before, I can't remember who it was, but I said it to somebody, I said it to a few people. You will find that as you get older and you've been diagnosed, that there constantly be things through your life that you go, oh, well, that makes more sense because of this, or this makes more sense because of that. You can adapt to certain situations, I guess. There's going to be times when you cannot adapt to it. Mine is definitely big social gathering type things. You know, I'm happy to talk to somebody one-on-one, maybe a couple of people about it, but a big gathering of people, nah, just in I go. So like for instance, if I went to a film screening by myself, it would be I go to the film screening, watch a film, come back, that's it. I don't really interact with whatever's going on, but sometimes I do, depending on if I recognise somebody or whatever, but generally I just have to keep to myself, because I get considered strange, evidently. But hey, as I said, mentioned, check out any of those groups and whatever. The next one I do in this kind of mental health-ish kind of idea of videos will probably be about OCD. So, yeah. Like this video if you liked it. If it helps, then share it on to other people that, you know, maybe have Asperger's or autism or on the spectrum, or you want to let people know in not your words, but maybe in somebody else's words, obviously mine, that how it comes across, and then you can potentially build on that conversation and say, oh, well, this person's like that, but this is how I deal with A, B, and C kind of thing. So hopefully this video can start as like a building block for you if you are either going through a diagnosis or you have been diagnosed and you want to tell people a bit more. Explain it, because it is hard to explain, because there will be situations when you say something and somebody will go, oh, I've got that. No, you haven't got that. You've got something like that, like when people say they're depressed. You're sad. You're sad. You could be depressed, sad, but there's the difference between being sad and depressed with, you know, depression. There's just two different, very, very different things there. But that's a whole different topic. But yeah, obviously, like I said, share this video around if you want to share it around with people. Let me know down in the comments down below if you know anybody that has autism, Asperger's, and let me know what your, I don't know, what your routine is, what your favourite subject matter is that you tend to focus on, or let me know if this video's helped you at all. And obviously subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And until next time, thanks for watching. I'll see you next video. Bye for now.